Hey everybody, welcome to today's video. This is just going to be a quick refresher since we only have a few weeks left until the new season on how to prep for the new season. It's a lot less than it used to be because they're not raising the power level next season, so really you just have to get your XP in order and make sure that you have the resources that you're going to need to support the armor and the changes next season coming with some of the weapons and the refreshes. And so what I use a website called Destiny Recipes, as you see here. You can click on checklist. You can also use it to power progress when they do raise the power level in the future. You can even use it to clean your vault. It'll tell you, what's good, what's not, what's great to hold on. It'll show you everything that you need. But we're going to focus on the checklist. And so from here you can see that it'll tell you where you're at on the prep score, how many resources you have, and where you should be. So it's asking you to have at least 3,000 shards to max out your upgrade modules, have at least 10 ascendant shards, 50 prisms, enhancement core, so on and so forth. And so the first thing that we're going to focus on, though, is going to be the bounty prep. That's going to be the first thing that you always want to do at the beginning of the kind of final weeks of the season. In this case, you can start, I think, 6 or 7 weeks in by getting the Ascendant challenges, and each week on each character, and you can stack up, I believe it's 6 or 7, I can't remember the exact number of those because they're different each week, and you can do 3 with the challenges from the Varix. There's the kill like Critus and the other bosses out there in Europa. You can get 3 of those, so you can technically do that 3 weeks till to really max out those. And to go into super in depth on how to use the bounties and to spin the bounties, I have a video already that I already made, and I'll link it up at the top and I'll post it in the description so that way you can kind of get the exact way to spend your XP and prepare your XP. But essentially, since we have only a few weeks, you're going to run through all your vendors. You're going to grab everything weekly that you can first. Make sure to knock out all the weekly bounties on all 3 of your characters, and you can track them all 3. Don't do anything seasonal, so don't do anything from Solstice because those will disappear at the end of the season, so you'll end up wasting your time on those. But you can do the Moon, you can do the Dreaming City. At the Moon, there's actually 2 sets of weekly bounties. There's the table next to Eris that you can also interact with to get 2 weekly bounties for the Nightmare Hunts. You can go to Europa as well, and those are the weekly bounties that are kind of in the Moon and Europa. Then you have the Cosmodrome bounties at Shahan you can pick up, and then 1 of the Star Horse bounties as well. And that's, you can only carry the 1 over because when you spend it, it'll start you over again. And so once you've got your weekly bounties, you're just going to grab and fill all the way up to 60 is what I do on the inventory. Bounties with the 6,000 bounties, so not the ones that you can spend Glimmer on to buy and repeatable bounties, but the non-repeatable bounties you want to stack up. And you can go to all the different locations on destinations, and from there you can pick up the 4 bounties each at different places. As you can see, there's even some on the Amuna. And once you've maxed out to your 60, you want to leave those 3 slots open just in case you get a couple of story slots. You won't be prevented from progressing. That's happened in the past. There's been bugs where you prevented from progressing your bounties max at the same time as your quest lines, so make sure you clear all of your quest lines from your left side of your tab, and I go over that as well in the prep video. And so this is basically what I do each end of the season. And since I've been kind of taking it easy with everything going on with Destiny, so I'm just going to do these last few weeks. Then you get these next few weeks to prepare, max up your XP. That way you can jump ahead in the season pass and unlock things early so that you can play with them early and experience them early, and unlock all the cool transmogs and things that you'll have as well early. And most importantly is your artifact. That's really the reason why you want to store up your XP, so that you can unlock the artifact quickly and take advantage of builds quicker for that season. And so that's the first thing. So I'm going to move on to number 2 now. So for number 2 on the list, you want to clean out your non-seasonal vendors. Those are going to be the Drifter, the Gunsmith, Shax, and Zavala. And with those, I'll kind of go over what you can do with each of them while you're clearing out their loot. You're going to store up, of course, engrams throughout the season, and if you don't grab them immediately, there'll be a bunch sitting here for you. I've already cleared out mine. And so with the Gunsmith, of course, you want to visit him and just look for god rolls or good rolls of weapons that you don't currently have. And of course, you always have the chance to get some standout weapons, like a nice battle scar, for example, with kinetic tremors. This particular one is actually a nice one, so if you're seeing this video on Monday, then go ahead and pick that up if it's still available. But the most important ones are these standout weapons. And so there's like a hand cannon this season, for example. It's got some really nice perks. It's kind of similar to the Dire Promise, and when you combine those, it can actually work well for you. And on the other vendors, what you're looking for are some of the standout weapons that have been from past seasons. And so there's nothing really to get other than the Randy's throwing knife as far as new items that are kind of worthwhile, and even then Randy's is okay. But you can focus your engrams into a blowout if you don't already have a nice blowout. So for example, something with like Demo Explosive Light, with Frenzy, you can get multi-columns depending on how many times you've reset your rank with Shax. And so always wait till the end of the season. I always wait till the final week. So next week I'm just going to go through here and just kind of focus my engrams on things that I may be looking for. Like I never really got the specific autumn wind that I wanted, so I'll be dumping engrams into that. And if you need a sniper rifle, Frozen Orbit's not a terrible sniper rifle to have, although I prefer others over it. But that's pretty much the reason that I would come to Shax to clean out, is to try to get, again, that God Roll blowout or a really good autumn wind, because again, those are still nice pulse rifles. Now on the side with Zavala, spend your engrams on any of the focus decoding stuff that you haven't gotten yet. And if you're still looking for or hunting for a loaded question this week, you can actually use that opportunity to spend your Nightfall ciphers as you're grinding the double loot on this. Braytech Osprey is what I'm waiting for, so I'm holding on to my 10 Nightfall ciphers. So when Braytech Osprey comes back around, hopefully next week or the week after, I can take advantage and try to get the one that I want, the roll that I want. And so those are going to be the things that you want to capitalize on, and you want to try to finish out your ranks. So for example, there's a free shard waiting for me. As I play next few weeks, I'm going to try to kind of finish that out so I can get the free shard and save that in my postmaster. And because again, I'm going to try to use a few shards. I'm going to take this shard, save it, and then I'm going to run some Nightfalls with the double rewards to try to stack up some shards in my postmaster, because coming into the next season, there's going to be a change where you have to worry about what you have in your postmaster. That brings me to number 3 on the list. That's going to be to farm the GM Nightfall this week. And so the GM Nightfall is an easy one. It's Fallen Saber. It's on the Cosmodrome. You can actually run Arc to just mow through things. You can run Strand to straight string everything up. So these are 2 very strong builds that you can run in there. And I recommend trying to knock out as many GMs as you can and try to get your shards maxed out. If you still have like armor that you haven't done, if you still have like a lot of things that you haven't put shards into to max out, because coming next season they're going to change the way that the inventory system works so that you have 30 Ascendant shards in your inventory, which sounds nice on the surface, but what they're going to do is they're going to make it to where the Ascendant shards will no longer go to your postmaster. And so right now what you can do is you can stack up shards here in your postmaster. You can stack up 10 on each character for a total of 30, and then when it comes next season you can get another 20 on top of the 10 you have in your inventory, and so you'll end up having a total of 60 shards that you can pull from, as long as you're just careful not to burn them. And so that's what I'm going to be trying to do, is just to stack up some shards so that I have extra shards for next season when they bring back some of these armors that I may have deleted, and I just have to pull them back out of the vault again and max them out so that I can use them to potential, or focus them with my exotic engrams so that I can get the roll that I want, or at least a decent roll. I mean, obviously with this new system it's super expensive, which again is another reason to have a bunch of shards, because when you're exotic focusing it just eats up your shards like nothing. So if you have your 60 shards, you can exotic focus some of the new reprised exotics. That way you can complete your builds and be comfortable in your builds. And so that would be number 3, is to make sure that you're farming the GM Nightfall this week for those double rewards. Stack 10 each of your characters, and then from there you'll have 60. Once you can start stacking more next season, you have your 30 in your bank plus your 30 in your postmaster, and of course you'll go through your inventory first, and your postmaster will stay untouched as long as you keep your postmaster clear and you don't accidentally overflow your postmaster, which should happen less because of the way that they're fixing some of the way that the engrams work and some of the drops. So it'll be a little harder to overflow your postmaster and lose those 10 shards in each setup. And of course they said that there's a guarantee that we're not going to be losing any shards in our inventory, so I hope they keep to that, because we're supposed to be able to keep those 10 shards on each of our characters for as long as we have them there and don't accidentally override them. And so that's number 3. And so number 4 is going to be to head over to the helm. And once you get to the helm, you're going to come down to your seasonal vendor, and so this is going to be the opposite of the non-seasonal vendors when you're clearing it. The seasonal vendors are going to have engrams that are going to stay, but you still want to take the time to come in here and grab these deep weapon focusing weapons. You're going to grab your red borders. As you play the game, of course, you're going to unlock the challenges that are going to give you red border options on these weapons for focusing. Of course, you can randomly focus a deep weapon and try to get red borders when it comes to having like a lot of missing patterns, but if you're like one or two away, you want to make sure to go ahead and grab those. The most worthwhile ones are going to be the targeted redaction, the rapacious appetite. Different times is kind of okay. Distant pull can be good, but so those are going to be the three that I would focus on: is the distant pull, the rapacious appetite, and the targeted redaction, especially because hand cannons are going to be getting a boost this coming season. And if you're really not interested in these particular weapons, don't forget that there's also the reckoning weapons that are back. So you're going to want a nice spare rations. You're going to want a decent outlast. I mean, it's not required. And then Soul Survivor has a unique perk combination that I'll be going over as well. And so I'm going to cover those here in a second and kind of go over the god rolls and the things that you can put together on these weapons and why they're desirable. So for targeted redaction, the roll that I was using initially at the beginning of the season was Hammer Forged, Accurized Rounds, Well-Rounded, Collective Action with the Handling Masterwork to help the handling because it's pretty low. Well-Rounded, of course, because of the stat bumps when it's activated. As you can see, the gun is really nice whenever you have everything going. And this was the 2-tap gun in the beginning of the season before they nerfed it. Since then, there's some additional other options that you can run with. So, for example, you can run payload instead of collective action. Payload's always good because you have that extended range from the payload itself. Keep away is great if you're trying to really max your range out as well. So as you can see with keep away on, you don't need well-rounded. Even if just have well-rounded one time from throwing the grenade, that's going to max you out there. There's a lot of other hand cannons in this space that will compete with this, but it has some decent rolls. And again, if you're a hand cannon person in PvE, if it's useful for PvE next season, Envy Assassin with destabilizing rounds is going to be really nice too. And so that's another option for you as well. And moving on to the next. So for the Rapacious Appetite, a lot of people were dubbing it kind of the poor man's Immortal, and if you weren't able to get the Immortal, this does have the ability for you to get target lock. You can add Perpetual Motion on there, which really bumps up the range, or should I say the stability, because again, this gun really needs help with stability and with the handling by itself. So Perpetual Motion, just for moving around, you get those bonuses. You can then do Ricochet Rounds and Hammer Forge with the Range Masterwork to get that range up to a respectable level. And of course, with the new nerfs to range perks that are coming up, so no more rangefinder, things like that, this can kind of even the playing field and get to the point where it's actually worthwhile. If you're trying to use it for PvE, a nice combination is Envious Assassin with Headstone, because as you're getting the Headstone kills, Envious Assassin will proc from that, and then you go to continue to get more kills and more kills and more kills. Same thing. So I do like the Headstone ability on this as a PvE weapon. Some people might go with like a one-for-all scenario, but you really run out of ammo before it can be useful. And then with the Unsated Hunger traits, as long as you're using your abilities, you're running ability spams, you get those additional bonuses, and it's a nice little bonus. As you can see there, it kind of evens out the gun, but it's not always going to be something you want to lean on because not everybody is running an ability spam build. So it's a nice gun to have, and I would craft it and have it as a backup. And it probably don't want to sink any of your alloys into it, but just have it crafted, have it ready, try it out, see what you like, and then next season, once we see how everything kind of falls with the range changes, then from there you can go ahead and drop your alloys into it. Now for a distant pull, I went with Fluted Barrel, Accurized, Overflow, and Opening Shot. And the reason why I went with this setup is because it's a fun, kind of aggressive 6v6 rifle. In this case, the sniper rifle is not necessarily the most competitive when it comes to like trials and things like that, but it really does have some nice ability to hit shots that it shouldn't have in high, fast-paced moments. So you're just going to be trying to take quick scopes with this one. With Opening Shot and your targeting adjuster active, you'll see that the aim assist is at 97. It's almost maxed out. And so if you have anything else on here as far as your armor mods go, if you have like a targeting mod, for example, you're going to be maxed out. So this is a really nice gun to kind of put on and play with when you want to try something different. Again, I wouldn't necessarily run this in trials, but if this is all you have, obviously it's good enough. Sometimes it'll win you some matches because you're going to get headshots that you shouldn't be getting. It hits like from way outside a normal cone angle when you have this setup, and so that's another one that's a nice one to have and to maybe not sink your alloys into, but to play with and enjoy the just the normal craft. And so as far as hand cannons go, this is going to be the one hand cannon that I would say if you were going to dump any of your engrams on, this would be the one to do it. Spare Rations is actually a nice hand cannon, and if you don't have some of the other major hand cannons out there, this is one to go for this season for the last few weeks. I got lucky, and this is the roll that I ended up with. I had full bore, ricochet rounds, slide shot, opening shot, and as you can see with opening shot active, and with everything on the gun, I'm already at 100 aim assist, so I don't actually have to run a targeting mod. I can just run Icarus and get that airborne effectiveness. When you activate slide shot, you have maximum range, you have really nice stability, and the handling with the handling masterwork is good enough. And so this gun, some people, they don't really like how it lands shots. I'm okay with it, and I still think it's a nice weapon. And of course, then you also have the additional flinch resistance when you're running over special ammo, for example. And so it's a nice weapon to have, and it's something that if you have some additional engrams that you're looking to spin and you really didn't want to craft any of the other guns, this is the one that I would say to make sure that you get and you hold on to, especially with the hand cannon buffs coming up next season and with the new game modes that are going to really focus on primary play. This gun may have a place next season in that meta. Now the next sniper rifle on the list we're looking at is going to be Soul Survivor. This one has a unique perk setup that we haven't seen in the game before. On this particular sniper rifle, it's going to be the Snapshot Eye of the Storm roll, and I paired that with like a full bore, and then you can run ricochet rounds, for example, with that, or high cal, something to get the range ups that you have a little bit of anti-flinch, and try to get the handling up, of course, handling masterwork, aim assist with your targeting mods and your targeting mod as well on the gun. And so this is just a unique role because of the way that it's set up, where you've got the snappiness from the snapshot and that additional ADS speed. When Eye of the Storm kicks in, you have that additional handling, and the gun kind of helps you with your accuracy clone size. So it can allow you to hit shots that you are going to be sure to hit versus like some you're kind of iffy about. Like if you put it right around the head, it's going to grab that headshot. Of course, you can always do the body and the quick swap with something like this with that little chevron. This is a nice gun, and it's again a unique role, that Snapshot Eye of the Storm role. So as you're in that combat, this is going to be that gun where if you find yourself trying to take snipes at people while under fire and trying to get that headshot through flinch or just get a shot through flinch, this is a nice role to have, and this is the gun to go for if you have some additional engrams. You already got your other weapons set up, and you're just saying, okay, well, what else is there left in the season to grab before the next season? Soul Survivor would be the kind of that next up behind Spare Rations, for example. Alright, and last on the list is going to be Outlast. Outlast is something that can hang with a lot of the other rapid fire pulse rifles. It's one of those guns where you're just kind of running and gunning, and it just feels good, especially if you're hitting your shots. The nice role to have is going to be the Hammer Forge, Ricochet Rounds, Keep Away, and Kill Clip. Keep Away, of course, because you're playing back as it is, and so when nobody's in that close proximity, you get that reload range and accuracy bump. And then Kill Clip just gives that gun an extra forgiveness. It doesn't have to be the only role that you can roll with. You can also run Impact Reserves if you find that you're somebody who fights deep into the magazine. And of course you can run Outlaw Kill Clip if you find that you're fighting a little close to people versus having the Keep Away. So if you're getting in these closer engagements and you're still hitting your headshots, Outlaw Kill Clip is perfectly fine. But as you can see, Keep Away when activated gives it just a nice overall roll, and it just feels good. The gun feels good. Same thing if you end up getting the bonus from the Disaster Plan to get that additional flinch resistance, which helps a lot on a rapid fire frame and range. If you're picking up special ammo. Of course, this may be useless next season if you're playing a lot of the game mode where you have to generate your own special ammo through gameplay and not just having it naturally. So, just your mileage may vary on that scenario. And this is again another one of those guns where it's not a must to have, but it's just like a nice to have, especially because it's solar too, so it's going to fit into some of the new builds. Right now we haven't had solar this season, so my hunch is next season there's going to probably be something solar to pick up on with some of the changes. And then of course the new strand aspects and everything too are going to be a nice little way to add some flavor to the game. And this is one of those run and gun weapons, and Strand is kind of run and gun if you're playing on the Hunter. The Warlock and the Titan are supposed to get some additional aspects to help with that, to help kind of equal out how powerful the Hunter Strand Kit is. And so we'll see how that goes. But again, this is a nice roll. This is kind of the final one that I would say to look out for, to pick up for the season. If I have some additional engrams, I'm going to try to go for this one myself. And so the last thing on the list that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to come over to the Annex, and you're going to visit Ada1 and pick up her bounties so that you can complete your transmog bounties. And so you'll see here on my Warlock, I've completed all my bounties, and so when you look at your bounties, it'll say Warlock bounties acquired 10, and all of these bounties will be grayed out. You can't pick up anything. It'll say synthesis bounties exhausted. But however, when I switch over to my Hunter, you can see that I still have some bounties available. Right now I picked up the Vanguard Threader bounty, but I can still pick up the Crucible Threader bounty. However, I tend to knock mine out using the Raid Dungeon Threader. Usually every week I'm running some type of dungeon or clearing the raid to get red borders. So for example, I'm doing the Last Wish raid. And so with these you can actually do a number of things. You can either pick up the one that allows you to get kills of each type of element, the 3 elements, and then you go into Shirochi's checkpoint and you just level up some weapons and knock out that bounty, and you do it over and over again. You just kind of keep deleting the bounty until you get that one. Or you just pick up the one that lets you clear a few encounters or the final encounter of a raid or dungeon, and as you're doing your dungeon, as you're doing your raid, you're going to knock that out no problem. And so that's usually the one that I do. Right now I have a Vanguard one so that I can do just a single Grandmaster, so I'm just going to take my Hunter and just do one of the Grandmasters to get some shards, and that's going to knock this out. And then from here I have this one, defeating challenging enemies, because I was farming my weapons and I said, oh whatever, I'm just going to kill the orange bar on the Shirochi checkpoint over and over again as I'm farming my weapons up, and I'm eventually going to get this one done too. And so that's going to be how I complete my 2. I've already got 7 out of 10 completed. It's going to be 8 and 9, and then I just have to do one more and I'm pretty much set for the season. But that's the way that I would go, is either you're going to run trials and you're going to pick up the Crucible Threader that allows you to just get straight kills, or you're going to pick up the Dungeon Threader that just lets you complete either 2 encounters or the final encounter, or like I said, the one that lets you just go to the Shirochi checkpoint and just get kills of Arc, Solar, and Void until it completes, and just come back and get another one. And also here you can check for the shaders that are not very easily attainable anymore. And so if you're a newer player, always come here and check for shaders every week, because there's some really nice shaders from the past that'll show up here. If you didn't have one, you can just pick them up for 10k glimmer each. And then you can also pick up upgrade modules here to max out your upgrade modules for that preparation for your resources. And so that's pretty much the whole video. Those are the main things that I recommend doing, is again just kind of reviewing, is to do your bounty prep, clear your non-seasonal vendor, clear your seasonal vendor, grab your god rolls, and then from there farm your Nightfall, so that way you get your double rewards this week, and next week too you can still run the Nightfall to try to make sure that you're getting the specific weapon that you may want. Make sure you're getting your Nightfall ciphers and turning those in so that you get additional rolls of your adept weapons. And then don't forget about your transmog bounties. Of course, next season there'll be some new content, and I'll be putting out content more frequently, but for now I'll just kind of be putting out a Destiny video here and there for the next few weeks while we're waiting for this next season to kick off. And I'll see you guys in the next one.